No, read the president's statement. Seriously, read the president's statement. He said he believes in the Department of Justice. He does. He says it in his statement. He believes his son was unfairly targeted. He said that what his political opponents have done to my son, that's his words, is cruel and enough is enough. He says he believes in the justice system.
Let the lies and spin begin. Karine Jean-Pierre tripping over herself and her boss's words as the left looks to manipulate the American people into thinking Joe Biden pardoning his son Hunter, in fact, isn't weaponizing the Department of Justice.
A ploy our next guests are all too familiar with, as they have been sounding the alarm on the Biden family corruption since 2020. Joining us now, IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler. Joe, I'm going to start with you first, because what we heard from Karine Jean-Pierre was echoing a lot of the words and verbiage that's in the statement that Joe Biden put out. But I wanted to read this to you, having worked on this case and blown the whistle. This is what Joe Biden's statement says. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion that Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. Joe, you know the facts.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having both Gary and I. A new set of prosecutors were actually brought onto the case. They looked at the facts and they decided to charge both the felony and misdemeanor tax counts against Hunter Biden. They also decided to bring the gun charges. So those statements that failing to file taxes and then, or failing to file taxes timely and then failing to pay them is typically handled civilly is completely incorrect. That's a misdemeanor tax offense. People are charged with that all the time. And then not mention, he forgets to leave out that his son also falsely filed tax returns and evaded his income tax. Those are both felony tax charges. So I think he's deceiving people and he's misstating the actual facts that happened in this case.
And he was, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, Hunter Biden was no longer using drugs during some of the time when the false returns were filed, correct?
Correct. That is correct. So he actually filed the returns after he became sober, which he pointed out in his book. And those returns, when you compared to the statements that he made in his book, didn't add up. And I mean, there were hotel payments. There were a ton of different personal deductions that were claimed as business expenses. That is filing a false return.
And Gary, you know, the point to what Dagan just read, I mean, Hunter Biden was treated differently, but he was treated differently by the DOJ. He was treated differently in that instead of explicitly pardoning him, they tried to bury all of this with, you know better than anybody, with a sweetheart deal. You've made the point that maybe the silver lining in the pardon is Joe Biden had to come out explicitly and admit exactly what they were trying to bury all along.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, they did single out Hunter Biden and the Biden family on multiple occasions. And it started when the Department of Justice didn't allow us to thoroughly investigate the activities of the Biden family in foreign countries, to include Ukraine. And then it went on to they're not going to charge Hunter Biden in late 2022. And then when Joe and I decided to come forward and blow the whistle, they learned what we were going to bring forward to Congress. And so they threw together the 2 misdemeanor plea deal, and that was a cover-up by Department of Justice to cover up their own malfeasance. And so he was singled out again. And now you see here, after he was finally held accountable for his crimes, he was singled out once again with a presidential pardon.
Joe, you and Gary have both risked a lot. And given just what has happened in the last couple of days, do you feel like it was for naught?
No, not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to do my job as a special agent with the IRS. I'm going to continue to follow the facts where they lead, and I'm going to uphold the rule of law. I mean, that's all I can do. And if I feel that that the Department of Justice is acting inappropriately, or that they're potentially giving favor to one person or another. More importantly, this is bigger than just Hunter Biden. This is favor that was given to a family, political favor, and they were essentially, we were hamstrung in everything that we tried to do. We couldn't fully investigate this case because there were so many levels of DOJ that had their hands in this that prevented us from doing normal investigative activities.
Right. Gary, you've seen the miscarriage of justice firsthand on the inside. You've got a new administration. Biden's gone. These problems could still arise. Are you confident that what's being teed up in terms of a new attorney general, new head of the FBI, do you feel like we could finally get rid of this kind of politicization of the justice system?
Well, I'm always optimistic, right? Because there are a bunch of good people that work for the federal government. And we need to ensure that the good people are the ones who are in charge and leaders and making the decisions. And I really hope that the new administration moves forward. I mean, the Department of Government Efficiency could have been born out of my own mind, right? Because as a federal employee, I've been fighting the bureaucracy for 15 years because nothing was logical. It was all about the process and not about the results. So I hope the administration comes in. I hope that I can help in some way, shape, or form. And I'm optimistic because there are good people. We just need to make sure they're the ones in charge.
Before we go, an update, Joe, of the defamation lawsuit against Hunter Biden's attorney. That's some justice, some personal justice at work.
Yeah, so that was one way that Gary and I could hit back. I mean, we were, as alleged in the lawsuit, we were defamed, and I think that is so important to our cause because we're standing up for other potential whistleblowers out there. I want to be an advocate for those in the federal government who see something that is wrong, see something, say something. Don't be afraid of the bureaucracy, the people shutting you down. You have to push and you have to create change. And that's what I think Gary and I, the most of what we want is change in the federal. We want to prevent this from ever happening again.
And we're with you, both of you.
Well said.
And we thank you both, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We hope to see you again
Thank you.
soon.
Have a good night. Yes.